So wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or even very good night for us on the East Coast. We've got me, Joe here, community manager. I'm here with Matiu, our COO, and also Kody, our CXO. So we do have a lot of chat about X Talk this evening, and just basically giving I think a really good overview and some information about what it is, what it does, what it means. I think there is some confusion, so we're going to really clear a lot of that up with some questions and Q&A style. So let's kick that off right now. Do you have any opening statements before we begin questions, gents?
No, just thank you for everyone for tuning in. Talking about I like crosstalk, right? Still spell it X Talk, but call it crosstalk, because I think that's a little bit more explanatory. But yeah, look, excited to talk about crosstalk in a little bit more depth and help people understand its power and what can be done with it.
Awesome. I think, if we go with the X Talk, it goes in with Twitter as well, though. It's been the most confusing day of my life since that's turned over. All the notifications on my phone are wrong. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, crosstalk probably takes away some of that confusion, but it doesn't. It's not on trend, on brand with Twitter. But that's okay. We're on Facebook Live at the moment, so we'll leave that out. So let's just dive straight into these questions. So number one, can you explain why crosstalk or X Talk is so important for the growth of blockchain as a whole?
Yeah, and there's I'll explain it using a bit of an example, right? So you can kind of view blockchains in the same way, or in a similar way you would view an economy, right? So blockchains have currency, they've got consumers, which are users, they've got businesses providing goods and services, which are applications, they've got infrastructure, which are nodes and miners. So if you look at them as economies in that way, the state of blockchain, or the problem with blockchain at the moment, is that they can't talk to each other well, if at all, right? And so really, when you're looking at blockchain as an economy, you're looking at it as a closed economy. And the limitation of a closed economy is that there's less efficiency, there's limited scale, because all you have are the resources within that particular economy itself to work with. And imagine, so I'll kind of try and paint a picture here. Imagine that you could only buy goods and services, right, that were from your own country. If you opened a business, you could only serve consumers that were from your own country. So it's very limited in terms of scale and growth. Now, what the solution needs to be is that there needs to be a way to be able to connect all these economies to actually open them up, right? And so into crosstalk, right? Then crosstalk comes in, and what happens when you've got open economies, a closed economy is an economy that doesn't exchange or trade with another economy, right? But now that when you open up economies, you open up innovation, so ideas and innovations from somewhere else, right? And now all your ideas and innovations are spread across multiple economies that you can access. Your users are spread across multiple economies. Look at the growth of online shopping. I can buy things from anywhere in the world, right, and have it sent to me. It scales the economy in a way that there's just so much growth for everybody. And that's the impact that crosstalk could have on blockchain. We're moving from these closed economies to these now connected open economies where innovation, resources, capital, users, you have access everywhere to be able to connect with those people and trade with them.
I think that's huge. Obviously, I feel sometimes we're stuck in the past. We take currency from Australia, we take currency from the US. You have to swap everything, change everything in order to be compatible. So having that, the borderless economy where it's just one thing to unite them all, I think is the catchphrase we've been going with, is been huge. I think that's definitely a step in the right direction for just general usability. So moving to question 2, could we explain what crosstalk is and how it enables seamless cross-chain interactions?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll go a little bit more techie on this one than I normally would, to kind of, and I think it's, the more and more I've been in blockchain, the more interested I have been in how it works. So I think it's really good to kind of understand how it works at a certain level. So basically with Layer 1X, it's built its own virtual machine, and you can almost look at crosstalk as another virtual machine within the virtual machine. And so basically, having built the virtual machine from ground up, there is a process that takes place for the transfer to be able to happen. Now, I know we've talked about this before, but there are a few different nodes, right, within the Layer 1X ecosystem. You've got event listener nodes, you've got the full validator nodes, and then you've got the signing and broadcasting nodes. Now, what happens when you want to transfer something across from a source chain to a destination chain with Layer 1X, it's first validated by the event listener nodes. So it first goes to, let's say you want to move something from Ethereum to Solana. It's first validated on Ethereum's chain, right? So whatever happened on Ethereum's chain gets listened to and gets validated through also by the L1X consensus mechanism. What happens when it moves from the event listener node? It then goes through to a rule processor. Now, the rule processor has a certain set of rules to it, and those rules are customizable. You can customize those rules, which is very unique in blockchain. So meaning the event listener now can then moves on to the rule processor. And what that does, it sends out a message sends out a listener to the destination chain to check the state. That does the destination chain meet the rules? So for example, let's say you wanted to swap Ethereum with Solana. Then you go through the event listener node, you get into the rule processor, and it would say, I've got this much value of Ethereum I want to swap over for Solana. It would then go and check the destination chain. It'll check the value in the pool with Solana in it. It'll check that it's actually Solana, and then it'll then adjust the payload. So what happens then is when the rules are met, the payload is adjusted, and when it comes over to the other side, it's in this new standard, which is Solana compatible, and it's the value of Solana you just swap with Ethereum, and it comes out of that pool. So that's how it kind of works. You've got these three different nodes, and when it finishes on the destination, that's when the third node, the signing and broadcasting node, comes into play. And so it starts within the event listener node, moves into the full validator nodes in our main consensus mechanism, and then at the end, it's broadcasted and signed by a signing and broadcasting node. So let me kind of give you the difference between that, right, and then what happens in a bridge. So there's no virtual machine. A bridge doesn't have a virtual machine. Virtual machines are used to validate and or check the validity and the integrity of the data, right? And a consensus mechanism is there to check the validation of the transaction or the validity of the transaction. And so they work in tandem. And so with bridges, they don't have a virtual machine. So it means that they don't have, to be able to go from one chain to another without a virtual machine, the source chain and the destination chain must speak the same language. Now, if they don't, it's like you and I walking into a room where there's multiple languages in there that we don't speak, and there's no translator. No messages are going to pass between each other, right? So when you have a virtual machine, it's that acts as the translator. And L1X or Layer 1X's virtual machine is very unique because it can translate from Ethereum to Solana, to a public chain, to a private chain, to a hybrid chain, any chain, right? It's got a very unique translator there. So what happens? They look at something like CCIP, right? The chain link CCIP. If you have a look at them, they don't have their own virtual machine. So it means that they don't. Those chains that they're connecting have to be compatible with each other. So that's why they operate through EVM chains, right? Because they're all made of the same virtual machine, the Ethereum virtual machine. Now, with the rule processor in the Layer 1X system, because it adjusts the payload accordingly to the state of the destination chain. So it's going, let's say it's going from Ethereum to Solana, it can see that the destination chain has these different standards. It can check the state, and then it can then update the payload, modify the payload, and then send it over so it's exactly what you wanted on the other side. Without a virtual machine, you can't do that. And so things like CCIP, that's why they're very limited in their capacity. But also because we have the ability, or L1X has the ability, that when it sends, that it actually sends to check the state of the chain, because it can actually go in there and check to see if the rules are met. It means that we can actually transfer logic across chain, meaning that it's not just one set defined message that we send across. It is something that has conditions, ifs and thens, right? So you can actually apply customization or conditions to a rule. So for example, you might say, I want to send this amount of Ethereum over to Solana, but I only want to do it if the value of Solana or I'm going to get this many Solana in that transaction. You can start to put conditions around that. So when it goes to check the state, it's not just checking for Solana to be there, it's checking for the value of Solana, how much you would get in this particular transaction. That's how granular you can get with the logic, right? And I think that's really important because there's no other interoperability solution that can do that. That can, so yes, we can talk to any chain, but also we can, with the logic, we can make it customizable and have to meet conditions. So once you start to, we talk about these open economies and now starting to talk to each other. So now imagine that you can go into any of these economies and you can spend the same currency in any of these economies, and you can speak the same language in any of these economies to be able to interact with and get what you want. Or you don't even have to leave your own economy, L1X, to actually interact with these economies. You don't have to go over there anymore, because I can a smart contract can access them for me from my economy. And so this is how crosstalk works. This is the difference between crosstalk and other solutions out on the market. So some other basic ones. You don't hand over custody with crosstalk. If it doesn't go through the other end, it doesn't happen. If it doesn't actually validate and process properly, it doesn't happen. So you don't lose your custody of your assets. Where with the fact that we have our own virtual machine, it's also faster as well. And taking away just the virtual machine itself, which is unique, but the fact that we don't have to access the virtual machine on the source and destination chain to do that, because we have our own virtual machine, makes the process faster as well. So I know I geeked out there for a bit. I hope that was okay.
I hope everybody was taking notes, because that's going to be on the test.
That is definitely things under the hood. That's for sure. So
yeah, that started very, very tech, but it's all right. And we got there back to you. You basically gave us our own virtual machine in yourself and translated for us, because I definitely needed that, which is perfect. Which I think as well, it leads perfectly into the next question. You were saying, like, as an example for CCIP, that it all operates on EVM, and that's why it can operate, because it's all on the same virtual machine. We're talking about us as L1X having our own virtual machine. So obviously that allows then compatibility across multitude that aren't just EVM. So which leads perfectly to our next question, which is, can you tell us which chains L1X is currently connected to?
Yes. So currently connected to 8 chains, and those 8 chains currently hold 80% or more than 80% of the TVL across all chains, and gives access for applications and users to access the majority of applications and users that are out there across all blockchain through these 8 chains. And so that's Ethereum, that's Polygon, that's Binance Smart Chain, that's AVAX, that's Phantom, Solana, Arbitrum, and Optimism. And the difference between Solana and the other 7 is Solana is not an EVM chain and the others are, right? So that's an example of what that virtual machine can do by connecting 2 incompatible chains together and using that rule processor and updating the payload so it makes sense on the other side through our own virtual machine. And so if you think about, if we can connect to any chain, and Solana being the example, right? And then and you talk about these economies. Now every time we add a chain, we add an economy to then feed into this web of economies. We had a private chain, right? That's another economy, right? That wants to interact. There's a hybrid. There's some more public chains. They all interlink and cause these additional innovations, these additional resources across the whole ecosystem of chains.
So what were the 8 chains again, real quick, Matiu? Let's just recap for them.
Yeah, 8 chains: Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, AVAX, Phantom, Solana, Arbitrum, and Optimism.
Perfect. So I'm just curious if anybody wants to drop in the comments of this live what the next chain that we connect with should be. So just testing the waters, just throw it out there. Drop it in the comments.
Can we say you can't say Bitcoin? You can't say Bitcoin?
Okay.
No, we'll say that you can't say Bitcoin because we've got something special for you afterwards if you don't already know.
Yeah, there's some alpha floating around in some of the other AMAs, but you've got to search for it. That's part of the fun. We can't just give it to you. That'd be too easy. Yeah, so I think that'd be good too. If in the comments, if in any of our other interactions, throw down some of the other things you'd like to be integrated as well. I know that we had some really big fans from Pulse Chain as well that have been very vocal. So if you're from a different chain and you want to see some interoperability, we would love to hear from you as well.
Someone said to me the other day, XRP, they'd love to see XRP connected. I've had a few actually. XRP, someone said Hedera. It's interesting.
That is.
That's the cool thing about it, right? That's the great thing about it. You can choose, and then it's all up to it's. So you're not limited by your choice. Your selection then becomes what's the best for the protocol, and which it will always be. There will always be what's the best for the protocol, but now you can choose from any chain.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it is that it's. We're not trying to compete here. It's more, we're trying to unite, and therefore everybody can be together. Everybody can work together for something that's progressively better together, rather than ADA versus XRP versus Algo versus NEAR versus Aptos or anything like that. It's more so, what if we all banded our resources, and that's what we're trying to create.
Yeah,
exactly.
I actually think you go, Kody.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you think about it too, there's some great projects out there on the various chains that have kind of gotten painted into the corners per se, right? Where they can't move. By connecting that chain with L1X or even bringing their whole project over, that might provide that way out for them so that they're not going to have to wait for the paint to dry for them to kind of keep moving and growing, because a lot of them are pretty stagnant right now with growth. With the lack of people on the chains. This definitely opens up not only for them individually, but for a variety of the chains.
I had a crazy thought the other day. It was how big could a meme coin that is not restricted to one chain, but has 8 chains.
That's a dangerous topic.
How big could that? I mean, I'm not a massive meme coin fan, but they can go pretty big, pretty quick. It'd be interesting to see what 8 chain meme coin could do.
Matiu, stop! Your degen is showing. Okay, we're back on course. Back to the question. So, what benefits can developers and users expect when building and using Dapps or Dapps on Layer 1X?
Look, I think I'm going to kind of go back to this same sort of example, right? So imagine if you could set up a business in a country where all of your consumers were restricted to that country, or you could set up a business where your consumers were across 8 different countries currently and counting. And I think just that example as a Dapp developer is pretty cool, just for the access to users, adoption, liquidity, but also now you can build some really cool stuff as well as that, right? So now you can build, you know, how I talked about the cross-chain logic, starting to put conditions on things, you know, and we've talked about a few different things that you could do with that in terms of, you know, aggregating lending platforms. So it'll just take your USDC, USDT, stablecoin, whatever it is, and go find the best lending APY wherever that may be, right, on any of the chains we're connected to, or a marketplace, NFT marketplace, that you put it on this marketplace, and it sells on every marketplace, or a launch pad, right? A launch pad that could launch any application on any chain, because it could aggregate everybody into this one launch pad, and then it just issue tokens on any chain that it wanted to, whatever wallet you wanted to receive it on, because it's cross chain anyway. You know, I was talking about, you know, the Alderune guys and the DGAR guys. I was thinking this, being a gaming company the other day, was, imagine if you built like something like a blockchain Olympics, right? But beyond that, so imagine if a gaming company built a stadium-like environment, like a stadium metaverse, whatever that is, and then you got gamer teams to start up these franchises, right? And then basically they would bring their NFTs in from all these different chains to battle, right? Battle for these NFTs from all these different chains, and you could have these gamer teams set up. And then you could have developers building games to play inside the stadium for these gamers. So, and that could be by governance, right? They build these games, and the gamers play these games in the stadium. And then you could bring NFTs from any chain you wanted to. You could create, you know, gaming teams out of applications. You could sponsor them. You could have an application sponsoring a gaming team and using their NFTs. I think the possibility is insane and I think that is a real incentive for real creators that want to do something new.
I think also, to kind of go along with that, when it comes to the benefits of developers building on us and what users can expect, is because of the crosstalk that we're doing. You know, Dapps were so last season, right? We definitely want to focus on X apps, and the difference between Dapps and X apps are that we're literally giving developers a wallet OS platform to come and build their projects on. Just like you have an Android, Apple phone that you open, you have access to all these native apps that are built right into your operating system. And that's basically what we want to create as well. Is we want to bring those games, we want to bring those DeFi projects and things like that right to the wallet experience, so you'd never have to leave the wallet like you do with a Dapp, which is basically just a link to a third-party website, right? By doing that, it allows us to really raise the bar in terms of quality, trust, transparency, things like that, because we can set those guardrails in place because they are utilizing and building on top of the wallet. There's some great incentives to the developers because they build one app. Imagine one app that could literally go to like your iPhone, your desktop, your TV, your car. I mean, all of that by building one app. That's very enticing to a lot of these developers that are literally having to develop an app for each and every single chain that's out there. And that's not very feasible or a good amount of time to spend your resources on. So we're trying to simplify that process, but by doing that and us raising the bar by putting in those guardrails, it allows the users to have a way better experience. Plus, with way we're taking the wallet to the next level because of the X app, it really does allow us to provide unique experiences with that crosstalk that no one can even offer across the board. Things like chat, things like being able to sign in once and have access to all of your different DeFi projects and games, toggle between them. It's endless of what we're going to be able to do here once we start implementing these projects into the wallet.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to that, and I know there's probably a question being asked, is we can also add any chain as well. Like, we don't have to have the other chain's permission. We can just go ahead and add a chain. So we can, it takes some resources to add each chain, but we can add any chain. So the good thing is that the chains that we add are always for the benefit of the protocol. So we're not we don't have to ask permission.
Right.
Yeah, it's perfect. I think that answers Wesley's question from the community, so that's perfect. I know you sort of touched on this in terms of the safety in some of the previous questions, just to lay it out in a straight question. So I guess we've got it in context. How does layer L1X ensure the safety and integrity of cross-chain transactions through crosstalk?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question as well, because if you think about the potential of crosstalk and the amount of traffic, it'd almost be the busiest hub in the world, right? Or the most the busiest motorway in the world. When more and more applications and users start to connect through that bridgeless interoperability, when you think about that, then security's got to be front of mind all the time. And so there's ways, there's certain things that we do in the virtual machine that takes place that ensures that it's a highly secure solution, especially compared to like a bridge. And there's a few different things. So we use, actually, let me just pull up. I was just writing something today, actually. Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's a few things we use within the consensus mechanism in the virtual machine. So we use what we call I'm going to go a little bit techie here again, but what we call a cluster-based node architecture. So what that means is that when the validation needs to happen, so when we need to validate transactions, is that workload is split up into tasks, right? There's certain tasks within that workflow, and that they get split up. And then each task is then sent to a randomly selected cluster of nodes, right? And these are the mobile validators, right? So each task is split up, so it's separated, and so not all nodes are doing all the whole thing. So it's separated. That adds to the security. The fact now that it goes to, because then we're separating it can't be, you can't focus on the whole process in one node. Split up the tasks. And then we go to a randomly selected clusters, which adds another level to the security, because these clusters of nodes that have one specific task have also been formed in a random selection. So trying to figure out which nodes are going to be in the actual group that performs that specific task is really tough, right? That's what the numbers just don't stack up until for being able to hack that, right? And then it has a randomly selected leader that then goes to a randomly selected full node. Now, the fact that we've got two players in here, or two sets, we've got mobile validators and we've got the full nodes that are validating the transaction, that these additional participants, or this additional participant, and the fact that there's tons of these mobile validators that we can access, right, also decentralizes and secures the process as well, because it takes away a central attack point. Now, we also use AI in the form of machine learning. It's HTM, hierarchical temporal memory. What it does, it's machine learning algorithm that is able to spot anomalies, right? And that means it allows us to spot bad behaving nodes before they cause damage. So it's like the sheriff, right, of the consensus mechanism, going around making sure everyone's in order. And then you've got the randomization and the formation of these clusters and the splitting up of tasks that add to that as well. So there's a few different very unique things that we have in the consensus mechanism makeup that adds to the security side of it, which makes it highly secure.
Yeah, awesome. I think understanding how, I guess, some of the attacks happen in general for crypto and why we need that mechanism is important as well. And mostly it's a majority share attack, right? Like if you can control a lot of the nodes or a lot of the access points with one via one entity, that's how people get into things. So having that full decentralization and randomization means that the next in line that's chosen, I guess, to be a validator is unknown, and therefore it's hard for a hacker to anticipate that. That's generally the idea.
Well, we were talking. I was talking today with Kevin. We were having a conversation, and we were talking about bridges. It was part of a larger conversation, but we were. So he was talking about the 3 bridge hacks, which is Ronin Bridge, Nomad, and Wormhole. Right? Together combined, that was over $1 billion with hacked. And if that were using, so if that was the L1X virtual machine and consensus mechanism, those hacks would not have happened. Like he went through and actually talked about how each of those, how they happened, could not have happened on our system. So there's $1 billion right there. And so when you look at the risk that it takes out, the quantified risk now that it takes out of participating in blockchain, that's substantial, right? It's significant.
Oh, huge! I think that's it. Like you said, it's $1 billion idea just in that one aspect from a bridging perspective, versus not having to bridge and it being a direct connection, so to speak. So, that makes perfect sense. But continuing on with the questions, can you explain how Crosstalk's universal gas token utility simplifies gas fees for users across different chains and how it improves the overall user experience?
Sure. Kody, do you want to start off with this one, or I can add anything on in terms of the universal gas token?
When it comes to the universal gas token and how we're simplifying it, yeah. I mean, from a wallet aspect, we're basically making L1X the default transaction for gases. So it'll be a good thing for everybody to stock up on L1X, have a little bit of reserve. I like it because it just makes it more simple. Just being in crypto myself, the way that we designed it is to kind of defeat all of the purposes of having ETH and BNB and the various chains. Having all that gas in there is kind of embarrassing sometimes when you try to go through and get a transaction in, and then all of a sudden it says that you don't have enough. So now you're having to rob from one wallet to another, or you're having to beg Matiu for more money so you can get your transaction through. Or you can do C, which is the better alternative in my opinion, and just have L1X load up on L1X, because that'll basically take care of all your transaction gas fees across any blockchain, anywhere, at any time, which is way nice. And then, like Matiu was talking about, because of that crosstalk ability, that gives us the opportunity to kind of literally go into those different chains and make that transaction happen. Likewise, within the wallet, we're trying to make all of that stuff that Matiu was just talking about. For some of us, it goes over our head, right? All we want to know is that when I press the button, everything under the hood just does what it's supposed to. And that's what we're doing. And we're trying to simplify that process as simple as we can. Are we going to nail it right out of the gate? Probably not. But we're going to try our best with each iteration and release of the wallets.
That's what we've got the community, right? To give us the feedback.
Yep.
What's working, what's not working. Give us the feedback, and we value it.
Yep, for sure. So we'll take your guys' feedback, and we'll basically make it better every release that we do. So that's how we're doing it from a wallet standpoint. So, but yeah, to even when you guys transact and you move things over and you're transacting on the L1X chain, that's where it'll be the cheapest route for us, right? With that being said, one of the main things that I've always preached, and if you've heard me say this before, is if we're using smart contracts, why aren't we using smart wallets? And so in my mind, this is one of the ways that we're kind of utilizing the gas fee to make it smarter. You're not having to decide if you need to use your ETH over here or if you need to use your BNB. Just by using that L1X utility gas token portion of it, it's going to solve all those problems for you. So you're not even having to guess which is which and where it needs to go where.
And I think that's great. And I reckon a great kind of example is for those people who've traveled overseas, and some people have traveled multiple times overseas to multiple different countries, right? Imagine not having to actually exchange your currency just to spend in the country you're going to. Imagine you can whatever's in your wallet, you can use that to transact over in the other country. And then who's ever come back from a holiday and found they've got like $2.60 of whatever the foreign currency was, that the currency where they came from, and they can't do anything with it, right? I was in travel, and I've got like $400 worth of just different money from 20 different countries, right? That I couldn't spend. I got left with no more of that.
So
in the crypto space, it's called dust. It's wallet dust.
Yeah, dust.
Exactly.
So
dust. I have a funny story I got to share really, really quick. So as many of you guys know, I don't have an Aussie accent. So I'm actually from America. I'm in headquarters in Australia right now for the past couple of months. And I'm out walking around in the local city we're in. And
it's really creepy.
And no, I happened to come upon this homeless person that was living out on the street, and ended up just talking to them for a few minutes. And I got into my wallet to give them just a few bucks, but I didn't have any Australian currency. I had used it all. And I'm like, I've only got like $10. Do you want this? Or like I was going to give him like a 20 in US. And the guy turned me down. He's like, I don't want your US money. And I'm like, you can just go exchange it. And he's like, no, I don't want your American money. I want only Australia. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can give you this. And he's like, do you have PayPal? I got PayPal. Could you imagine if he had L1X? That would have been awesome.
So it's the way of the future for everybody, for every user.
Exactly. Every user.
There you go.
Every user. Okay. So on that note, we'll continue on. So in terms of participation, so this question is, I guess, in terms of general security of the network, how can everybody be a part of it? So can you share more about how users can participate in the network security and be rewarded for their contribution?
Yeah, this is a really cool thing, I think, about L1X, right? Is that, and it kind of works into the whole, underlying heartbeat of L1X, which is access to everywhere for everyone, right? Choice, access, all these, and so there's 4 ways you can actually participate in the validation process within L1X, and I think that's pretty cool because it lends itself to anyone of any sort of means and all sort of participants within blockchain. So the first way is download the wallet, become a user, and you're automatically in the validator pool for the when the mobile enabled devices get to validate transactions. So you can be randomly selected. Your particular mobile device or mobile enabled device can be randomly selected, and if you are, you're rewarded. All you have to do is download the wallet and be a user. The second one is that you can delegate your stake. So everyone's about to get their L1X coins, and do you want to put those coins to work? When you look at the roadmap, we've got I think a pretty ambitious and awesome roadmap over the next 4 years, and we have a clear line of sight to what needs to happen to put all that in place. And I think the technology so far proves that anything is possible with this team. But if you want to put it to work, you can delegate your stake. So all you do is you just delegate your stake into the staking pool. Your coins get allocated to a full validator node or an event listener node. You can choose, and then you get rewarded, right, for transaction fees. And then you can actually run your own nodes. And there's 2 levels, right? You can run an event listener node, which is the ones that deal with the cross-chain interaction. And then you can get a full validator node, which deals with in the main consensus mechanism, dealing with native and cross-chain. They're in both the process. And then, so there's 4 ways you can participate. All of them require different level of technical knowledge. different level of resources, giving everyone, or the majority of people at least, an opportunity to participate and be rewarded.
I love that as well. There's so many different levels of participation. You know, a lot of the times it's you can set up a node, and if you're not on the techie side, that's harder than it may first appear. So having, you know, multiple different steps, multiple different levels or tiers for people to participate in just general security, I think is massive. You know, from being as simple as having the wallet to assist with validation or delegating your own stake and things. I think it's massive in terms of difference for participation across the board for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. And then just continuing on, we still go down that route of security as well. So how does L1X utilize AI and encryption technology to enhance data security and prevent malicious activities?
Yeah, and so this is probably maybe a kind of a follow-on from what I was talking about before, but the homomorphic encryption allows us to, for data to be encrypted, it's still updated, right? So the data doesn't have to be revealed to be able to update that data. So you know, you might have something to perform, or you want to add to that data, add a bit of information. What can happen now is you don't have to see any of the other information to be able to update, and if you're being given authorities to update that data. So homomorphic encryption allows for that, which is pretty cool in terms of privacy, in terms of security. And then the other one was the HTM, which is the hierarchical temporal memory, which is AI or machine learning AI, which basically allows us to spot, or allows bad acting nodes to be spotted and taken action on before they cause damage. So it's like the sheriff of the consensus mechanism.
Yeah, it's perfect. And I know we touched on that, but it's, once again, all this will be on the test. I hope everyone got what HTML.
Yeah. And if you're mentioning it twice, it's got to be on the test, right? It's got to be.
Exactly, that's right. If you're not picking up the clues, you know, this is on the test. It's the one. So I know, Kody, you touched on this already a little bit, but even if you wanted to elaborate, just for framing this question, could you provide some insight into what users can expect from L1X's wallet and how it aims to make crypto more accessible to everyone? Like, I know you've encompassed that a little bit, but even just a quick summary would be perfect.
Yeah, basically, you know, our goal and our focus is to make it as secure as possible, but likewise, I feel that doesn't have to compromise user experience. And with that being said, we have some state-of-the-art stuff that we're going to be rolling out, hopefully around October, November-ish, if not sooner, that will take everybody's wallet encryption and security to a whole new level that hasn't been seen before. I'm pretty excited once we can start talking about that. So that's some alpha for you. However, it will also make it very scalable, that we can start applying that user wallet, in a sense, to other devices and experiences. And so with us doing that, one of our primary focuses, we want to make it as simple that our grandma can basically join crypto, play around with crypto, buy crypto, send crypto, receive crypto, cash out crypto, right? We want to make it as seamless as possible there. And with crosstalk, it really allows us to basically do that from a lot of different angles. And so I wish I could go more in depth into the security portion of it, but I will at a later date. But just know that is on the forefront of what we're trying to accomplish here, is make it very secure for you guys, make it very secure for the users, but likewise make it so that it's simple and it puts you guys back in control of not only what you're connecting to, but the data that you're also using as well.
Yeah, I think the community is going to play like a major part in the evolution of the wallet. So it's kind of cool to be in the early stages, right, as a community member, to be able to utilize the wallet. to be able to see the cool features, to be able to, recommend features, to be able to give feedback as that wallet evolves into something that, becomes really intuitive and potentially like your main interface into blockchain and crypto.
Yeah.
Which is,
and that's why we're kind of, the way we're positioning it, it's not so much a wallet by the time we'll get done with it. It's an experience, right? How are you going to experience the blockchain? And that's kind of what the evolution of the wallet that we'll be making over the next 6 to 12 months will be.
Yeah.
Sounds sneaky alpha, which moves us into our next bit, which is the alpha of the afternoon. If you've stuck around this long, it's been close to 45 minutes. I think you're probably ready to hear some fun stuff. So the closing question we have for the team: what's next for L1X and Crosstalk? Are there any upcoming developments or milestones that our community can look forward to? The alpha section.
Yes, the alpha section. Look, I think the great thing about L1X is there's so many different features that you can continually enhance, right? The speed, crosstalk, the decentralization, the security features. Like you can keep on building on top of these things. The wallet, right? But at the heart of it all, crosstalk is like right there, right at the heart of everything. That's the key piece. And so connection is important. And so when we're looking through, mainnet beta is a very busy period where we'll be doing a lot of things, bringing out SDKs for developers. There's a ton of things, and we've got a blog out for mainnet beta, and it'll give you a really good rundown of everything, right, that's happening during mainnet beta. But past mainnet beta, we're looking to connect the Bitcoin network, and so I think we've got that earmarked for about the middle of next year to pinpoint that way and connect up with the Bitcoin network. Now, the addition of the Bitcoin network on top of the 8 chains that we have is a massive piece of all users across crypto. Once you bring in the Bitcoin network, the capital, the users, added to the existing 8 chains, and there's so many not only crypto native applications that want to access that, but there's also a lot of traditional finance, and we've just seen it with the application for ETFs, for example. One in Europe got approved a few weeks ago, and then you got BlackRock applying again. So as these more and more of these come on board, and the fact that we can now connect to what we call a subnet, which is a private chain, which sits here that can be run by an enterprise and be permissioned, right? So it's secure. You have permissions on. I mean, it's all secure, but you can add additional security in terms of who you allow in and out of that particular subnet, right? So it's almost like having a membership or a subscription when you go onto any sort of maybe a trading platform or anything, right? You've got a subscription there, so you can have permissions to go in and out of the subnet if they wanted to do that. But it still accesses the public chain for validation. So it can still be validated from the public chain. And if the public chain is now connected to Bitcoin, then now it's got bridgeless access to Bitcoin through a decentralized consensus mechanism, which will validate the transactions coming through. And that's just that connection there. That's massive. That is what a lot of enterprises and a lot of TradFi are looking for. But not just them. Imagine all the applications now that can include Bitcoin as part of their offering. I think just that one chain, addition of that one chain, is pretty substantial, significant.
Yeah.
Oh, huge. We talk about how much TVL is locked up, obviously, just in EVM chains themselves. And then, when you're talking about cryptocurrency, if you're not in the enterprise or in the, I suppose, ecosystem, people just assume that is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin equals cryptocurrency, cryptocurrency equals Bitcoin. So to be able to integrate that, I think, is a much bigger deal than people even realize now. So it's that is huge alpha.
I think people realize it, right? But then they don't actually really realize it. Like when I think they'll realize it when it gets connected, and you can see then the doors that open to a lot of interested parties for that connection to happen. I think, that'll be the proof will be in the pudding, right? But I think that's when you'll see, like, okay, wow, this is how big it could be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like we said, that's going to be the next step, the next frontier, or I don't want to say the final frontier because there's always more, but that's a huge connection piece in the puzzle. Like, so huge alpha, everybody. If you're on right now, that's the alpha for the night. I think that finishes all of our main questions that we've prepared. That's any closing statements from you guys?
I saw that question. Come on, Kody. Wesley Hill's on fire, man. He is.
Yeah. So Wesley's question was, how many "what's that" do you get from people when you explain what your role is as CXO?
That's why you call it. It's a conversation over.
I love it.
Yeah, that's I get that quite a bit. But once I start explaining why and what I do, the light bulb kind of goes off after a minute. But CXOs are not very common, but they are on the growing list of roles that every company needs over the last few years. So, if anybody ever has questions about CXOs and what we do for a living, definitely feel free to reach out on CryptoNaut on Discord, or I'm CryptoNaut on CryptoNaut22 on Twitter. Feel free to ask me questions. I'm happy to answer them for you around the whole UI UX thing of what customer experience is.
Perfect elevator pitch. All right, perfect. I think that's probably enough brain bashing for everybody. I know Matiu really went some.
I apologize, for the
high level tech there.
I know there is a small piece of the people listening that loved it. I know that. Because I love the nerdy stuff sometimes too. Just give me a little bit of nerdy, and I like it.
Yeah, there's definitely some people like, I get that, and then there's also some other people that are like.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to tell them what
Cody's
it looks
my
like
virtual machine. Cody's my virtual machine. He translates.
The best.
So what Matiu was really saying was this.
Yes, I think that's the best bit about being able to see everybody in the screen is you see Matiu doing this in the background. Cody's like,
oh geez, no. Matiu and I have a really good relationship because I keep it high level. He loves to go in depth, and so we're kind of that yin yang kind of thing going, right?
That's right.
So
that's right.
We feed each other. That's for sure.
It works out. Okay, let's wrap that there, guys. But thanks once again. Thanks everybody for joining in and listening to us break down the crosstalk. You know, it's a really obviously important part of the whole protocol. Whether you've stayed up really late for it or got up really early for it, or basically you're just killing time at your work day, thanks for tuning in. We will have this recorded and posted, so if you did miss it, it'll be around somewhere for you to find.
And I know we've had a few new community members come in, right, the last few days and over the last week. So, you know, I want to say a big welcome to the new arrivals, the people that have come in. Welcome to the community. We're here for the long haul. And look, if you've got questions, you know, please jump on these and ask the questions, or ask them in any of the social channels. We love to educate and you know, and listen to the community and talk to you guys. So, you know, welcome on board. You're in for a good ride.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that's a key thing to remember. The team is very responsive. You know, we try to get as much information out there so everybody can learn, and we can all educate ourselves as well as each other to get all basically what Layer 1X is out to everybody. So get in the Discord, get on the Twitter, get engaged. We love seeing your questions. We love having you guys a part of the whole ecosystem. But I think that's perfect. That's it for the video. Let's wrap it there. Once again, thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you on the next one.